Good morning, I'm Terence Allmark. I'm the Business Development Manager at UKTelehealthcare. As we wait for the final delegates to join this morning's session, I'll just go through a few details. So thank you for joining today's event, this second event for UKTelehealthcare this year. Our next event will be in March the 15th, and we're very excited to announce the first live event in 2 years that we will be holding in Dorking, but more on that later on. A couple of changes to today's programme, the original programme that went out due to the current operational pressures on the emergency services. The blue light panel session has been postponed and should be rescheduled to a future event. So today, instead of 4 presentations, as you can see from the programme in front of you, we've got 5 presentations. They are starting with and then following with Apello, KeySafe, Vonage and Oyster. During today's session, I encourage you to put your questions to the presenters using the chat facility. If you can post your questions to everyone, in that way all attending today will be able to follow the conversation and get involved with any questions that are asked. At the end of each presentation, I will put those questions to presenters. Today, a full recording of the event will be available on the UKTelehealthcare website and also the presentations. And by the way, if you missed the first event that we held on the 18th of January, you still have an opportunity to see those presentations, and also you can view the recording of that event. And also, if you would like to share today's event, please use the @UKTelehealthcare News or the hashtags. At the end of today's session, we'll have some comments from Jerry Allmark, Managing Director of UKTelehealthcare. So now I'd like to invite Stuart Barclay to start the presentations today. Hi, Stuart. Let me just stop sharing my screen. If you could share your presentation, please.
Yeah, challenges.
Yeah.
Bear with me.
Excellent. I can see that clearly.
Excellent, great, fantastic. So thank you everyone for joining. Welcome to the ViaCare presentation. You can see from the first slide, we're going to talk about people at heart first and technology at the core. Really, really important to us. If it'll slide, hold on. Bear with me. Technology issue. There we go. Sorry, my apologies. So importantly, what we did during the last quarter of 2021 is we went out to our customers. We carried out some surveys. Those surveys were really, really key to how the social care sector can bounce back to be fitter and stronger after this terrible pandemic that we've been in, and also the great work that everyone has done. And I'm sure there's plenty in the room that have many stories, and we applaud you all. But some of the key highlights for when we were in the middle of the pandemic, I suppose, are we out of it? I don't know, but certainly when we were in the middle of the pandemic, was they were concerned about obviously the risk of infection to work staff, to other caregivers and people delivering and supporting the social care sector. Obviously, the rising costs are a key thing that are discussed all the time in equipment to support people with more digital solutions and delivering that person-centered care. And importantly, the impact of isolation, the mental health impact and the challenges that go with that. These were the key goals, the key highlights that came from the survey for people during the pandemic itself. But how do they, we looked at the survey again and key objectives that we wanted to get out of bouncing back after the pandemic. And we wanted to be fitter and stronger. So the three, we asked them to rate the 6 choices, and interestingly enough, fall detection is still on there, and certainly improving fall detection was a key element. But that's then supported with the person-centered care element. So these two sort of go together. But the big one for us that came out that I don't know if we can do anything about other than we can work smarter and wiser with the use of technology, and that was ranking recruitment and retention of their staff. And that's in a lot of key verticals that situation works, but especially within the social care sector. So looking at the person-centered care element of it, we looked and said, okay, what is the data that we sort of need to get to support people to deliver that person-centered care? And interestingly, you can see the figures yourself, but really interestingly, time at rest. So the amount of time people are sat in their chairs, the amount of time that people are in their beds, etc., was really, really important. Above the 50% mark. But that imminent bed exit, and with the technologies that we've got at this moment in time, it feels like it's too late with some of the technologies to say someone's out of bed, so it's a bit late. So really knowing when someone's thinking and predicting that someone's going to leave that bed situation is very, very high at 72%. So we sort of take this information to say, how can we help further? We then take fall prevention and look at the 3 pillars of it, the 3 dimensions. So obviously fall detection is important, and we get the events from that, and we've done well to do that with the technology available at this time. But actually we want to know more about the unreported falls, the hidden falls, or the minor stumbles. That's very, very important with regards to planning fall prevention. Fall prediction is very, very difficult, but if we take into consideration the sleeping patterns, the actual time at rest, are they actually active during the day? So data around movement around the house, etc. And then the fall intervention bit is really about, can we basically get the data to allow caregivers to identify when someone at risk is potentially going to move. So we're looking at the likes of the imminent bed exit sensor to promote that. And these are our 3 dimensions or 3 pillars for fall prevention. Obviously, we've done well over the last 20 plus years that I've been in the industry where the technology is available. I think we should applaud ourselves and everything we've done, but obviously we're at a key time where change and choice and interoperability are still key elements that we need to move forward with. So we can look at cameras in bathrooms. Cameras overall are not great. They're great from the point of view of we can see what's going on, etc., but they don't give dignity and respect. And also more and more people have cognitive issues where they don't understand what buttons are, etc. So what is the future? Well, VR have a future. So we've started a revolution. And that revolution is about breaking down the barriers of interoperability, making sure that we can offer choice and support manufacturers, partners, and caregivers in changing the face of care to be fitter and stronger for the future. So the VR unit itself is a very, very small unit. You can clearly see there's no cameras involved and no wearables, and the sensor itself picks up, monitors the whole environment. So how does it do that? As you can see from the small video, we've got the room being scanned as an illustration. We use 4D imaging to scan the room 10 times per second. So it will give you active live data with regards movements around the house, when the individual is in their bed, when they're in their chair, and importantly, it will report an instant fall. So giving you the dynamic presence, and very, very soon, the imminent bed exit sensor that we have on soft launch at this moment in time. A very, very short video. I probably haven't shared with sound. I do apologise. Let me unshare 1 second if I can. Stop sharing. There, it's there. Let me reshare with sound. I do apologise. Okay, you should be getting this shortly. Dave, you were meant to remind me of this. Okay, you should hear this video now. It's about a minute long.
This is ViarCare, the world's most advanced touchless technology. Radio frequency sensors monitor seniors 24/7 without cameras, buttons, cords or wearables, maintaining privacy and dignity at all times. ViarCare collects rich point cloud data on presence and movement. Instant fall detection enables caregivers to provide rapid response, eliminating long lies and identifying even minor, hidden falls that often lead to more serious incidents. If there's a fall, ViarCare gets help. The system tracks in-room activity in real time, such as when a resident is in or out of bed, indicating mobility, time at rest, and other patterns across any defined period. It counts bathroom visits. High frequency or changes in schedule could indicate an issue, such as a UTI that requires medical attention. Because ViarCare works in all conditions, including pitch darkness and dense steam, caregivers can confirm room occupancy around the clock and carry out efficient evacuations if required. And it alerts on imminent bed exits for at-risk residents, enabling intervention and true fall prevention. ViarCare operates over 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi, supporting wall or ceiling installation and dry contact integration. ViarCare's data provides constant visibility into each resident's activity and well-being, supporting personalised care plans, improving occupancy, boosting staff utilisation, and enhancing your brand's value. ViarCare. Protect seniors, respect their privacy.
So as you can see, importantly, it's completely interoperable, the solution. It will speak to any social alarm unit. It will speak to any nurse call system. We promote ourselves to be able to integrate anywhere. So we are integration ready for all social alarms and all suppliers. We are keen to work with suppliers in the social care sector. That may be manufacturers, that may be local authorities, looking at pilots and to understand the challenges that go with it and promote and help. And that's why we're doing the ViarCare pilot program. So you can reach out to us. You can see the link there below. I'm sure these presentations will be shared afterwards. And obviously I'm contactable at any time. I do look forward to questions. Please, there is normally quite a few, which is great. And we do obviously offer that pilot scheme as well. So look forward to seeing you all on the 15th of March. I will be at the event and looking forward to having a face-to-face meeting again. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much, Stuart. We have a question from Anne Williams. Anne asks, in the States you work with Amazon, is it likely in the UK?
No comment, Your Honour, is probably the best answer. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, because we work with Amazon in the US, then is Amazon UK ready for that? I suppose it's a question more to Amazon than to us. Yes, we would have it all over the world. Of course we would. But it's all just steps. The Alexa Together program is up and running. It's going very well. It's a partnership, but they use our sensor in a different way. They're only looking at falls and not looking at the data. And I think that's the important message, is that it's for people in their own homes, for me to buy it for my mother and father and put it into their homes, like we did with our first generation product. So will it come in the future? I'd like to think so, but I don't have any timeline. So it's a hard one to answer, but I get asked it a lot.
A second question, does your product work with UMO calling platforms?
Yes, we're in the UMO integration program at this moment in time. It's a partnership program. We're working alongside the team at UMO to make that happen. We can obviously speak to any platform with regards to putting it through a social alarm unit, dispersal alarm unit, warden call unit, etc., and do it the analogs way of doing things. But absolutely, we are in the middle of that integration at this moment in time.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Stuart. As Stuart said, his contact details, the presentation, and a recording of this event will be available. So if you have any further questions after reviewing that information, please do forward it on and we will send it to Stuart. Thank you, Stuart. So now I'd like to move on to our next presenter, and I see Dave is ready on screen to get started. So Dave, if you could share your video, please.
Not quite as slick as we would want, but
That's fine. The presentation will be.
if I can find it, that is.
Have you got the share screen option?
Yeah.
Is it it's just presentation, you know?
Yep.
And if you put in presentation mode.
Yeah. Hopefully that's there then.
Perfect, thank you.
So not quite as speedy as an F1 change of the wheels, but there you go. Firstly, thank you very much for Terence and UK Telehealthcare to give Apello the opportunity to chat about their latest digital dispersal alarm. And I don't think it's fair for Stuart to say I should have reminded him about the sound, but I've reminded myself, Stuart, so hopefully I won't fall into the same trap. Okay, well, thank you very much. So I'll just move on. So I'd like to talk to you today about Apello Smart Life unit, which is our latest digital device. So it's a digital dispersed alarm. And prior to talking more about it, I'd just like to talk about why we decided to create our own dispersed alarm when we've already got a digital dispersed alarm, which we partnered with Essence, which is offered across the UK. But as with what Stuart said earlier, and it was a great presentation talking about interoperability, the interoperability in a digital environment is the key to the future success, I think, of the tech industry. And it's something when I joined Apello from having worked for Tunstall for a few years, I was invited onto their design group, and interoperability with other manufacturers' telecare devices was absolutely critical, I thought, and so did the rest of the team when we discussed it, to the future of a digital dispersed alarm. So the reason we've made and introduced Smart Life is so that we can introduce interoperability with other manufacturers' equipment. What that also does is it provides much greater choice for individuals and providers of services to personalize the systems without the need to change the main device just because that manufacturer might have the right fall detector that somebody wants or a bed sensor that somebody wants. It also is an opportunity that by introducing interoperability, you can future-proof the digital solution. And in doing that, so we tried to make sure that our unit had connectivity that was unrivaled in the industry. And I'm sure we've been able to do it. And we've introduced a couple of small features, nice features, like the I'm OK feature. And I think one of the things that is important from a manufacturer's perspective is that we listen to what customers and other advisors in the industry say. So when you think about what Steve Sadler said, that true interoperability is often cited as offering significant benefits to commissioners and service providers of users of the tech industry. And I think that's key for the future. So what I'd like to do is just play a quick video of Smart Life, and then I'll take you through some of the features in more detail. Well, that's not worked well, has it? Just going to stop sharing for 2 seconds while I get that back on.
Is there more to your video, Dave?
No, the video's finished, but I can't seem to get out the video link.
Can you click on the following slide, or is that not possible?
It's not allowing me to. It's just locked up in that position. So
Can we try and do that for Dave, Julia?
So I've got my essay written, and I've been working on it for about a week. So now I'm going to show you how I use Grammarly to edit. Okay, so here's my essay, and I'm going to click through Grammarly suggestions in the right panel. Hey, everybody.
Do you stop sharing your screen for a moment, and we'll see if we. Is it possible that we can continue Dave's presentation for him?
So that's the slide I wanted to get onto.
Okay, so if you want to continue and say when to swap the slides to the next one.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, everybody. So the previous slide just shows the sort of like a 3D image of the Smart Life unit and everything about it, so that if anybody wants to have a look when they look at the presentation, they'll be able to see that. So just talking once again about the unit itself, it's a fully digital 4G unit, and it's quite unique that it will also communicate in the digital protocol SCAPE and now IP, and obviously fall back to GSM 2G. One of the areas of interoperability that we're really keen on is around the telecare peripherals. And in the marketplace, we know that in the analog world, Tunstall have got a significant share of that marketplace. And even their analog units have been using their 869 radio peripherals. So what we wanted to make sure is that from the get-go, the Smart Life unit would be compatible with Tunstall, Care, and obviously the Pella peripherals. We are in talks with Tech to try and hopefully integrate their products into our system, into our Smart Life unit, sometime during 2022. And the way the radio infrastructure works, the Smart Life unit has a one-way and two-way 869 radio receiver, which will allow us to take on board Tech peripherals hopefully this year. With regard to connectivity and future-proofing the unit, obviously the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi capabilities allow us to link to existing and future products that will work with our unit. For example, We hear a lot about monitoring stations not being able to communicate with a user who's not got into bed or get out of bed, or the unit's been activated, and the unit's generally in the lounge and they're in the bedroom. So a simple £30 Bluetooth speaker from Curry's PC World can be linked to the unit and give you full speech and microphone from the bedroom through to the monitoring center. And if it's a low energy Bluetooth device, then the things like Bluetooth hearing aids are available now, which are less than £100, which would be able to connect in. Keeping on the idea of interoperability, we also introduced a industry standard device management platform, which uses a protocol called TRO69, which allows us to change, program, update, do everything that we need to do remotely over the air, and also gives us the opportunity to link to our Apello cloud services. Doing that means that we're not reinventing the wheel, we're just using something which is used by millions of devices already across the world to develop and deliver a device management platform. We also wanted to ensure that we could use our unit to be a voice over IP unit, which is a zero call cost unit. So it's not quite the same as voice over LTE, because LTE just means long-term evolution, which is another name for the mobile network. And obviously with the mobile network, you've got generated call charges. And some units actually in the digital communication will initiate a call back from the monitoring center to the unit. We also wanted to ensure that the SIM cost, which is a necessary development for a digital unit, is low cost and from a provider who's well known within the industry. And obviously CSL are very well known. Other mobile providers are available. We wanted to ensure that it was fully compliant with all standards, that's UK and European. And there's a slide on that as I could go through. Part of the voice over IP situation is that we'll be communicating and sending information over an open internet. And obviously when we're doing that, we need to ensure that we've got some level of encryption and protection on that data. So all the Apello suite of digital systems, from the Smart Life to Smart Connect and Smart Living solutions, use TLS 1.2 encryption, which is transport level security, which basically gives us end-to-end protection of any data that we send across an open internet. The other really important point is the speed at which digital enables us to connect, which is 3 seconds, 3 to 4 seconds usually, from the point of the alarm activation occurring to it being presented to the monitoring station. You've still got a situation then where the monitoring station have to answer the call, but that's something that the monitoring station are being paid to do. And I think just as a point to remember, it is where if it's a Tunstall system, a Tunstall dispersed alarm, which is an analog unit, then you can upgrade the unit and continue to use the radio peripherals, which is both good from a cost perspective, but also good for the environment. If I could have the next slide, please. So, Smart Life. There's 3 main buttons on it on the front, which is the I'm OK, the away and the alarm button. They're all illuminated. We've got 2 ways of connecting to a router, which is either through an Ethernet connection or via the Wi-Fi that's present on the unit itself. So we would always suggest connecting it via a fixed Ethernet connection, but if that's not possible because of the location of the router compared to where the unit's being installed, then you can just connect it via the Wi-Fi. Mentioned about the over-the-air updates and the way you can reprogram and control the units, but some manufacturers have to wait for the unit to ping the DMP in order to do any updates. With our unit, as soon as we do the updates on the DMP, they're automatically downloaded to the unit, and that can be a single one or it can be multiple units simultaneously. We have a heartbeat to the cloud, which reports on certain elements of the functionality of the unit, which is the unit battery, the actual mobile signal, and also the carrier for that mobile signal. We've integrated an ambient temperature sensor, which will allow us to do different functionality in the future. And it meets the audio performance of 50134-3, which, as every manufacturer knows, isn't easy and it is quite difficult. But it also confirms to all the other European and UK social alarm standards, which is the EO 50134 standards, and they're all listed there for you. And next slide, please. Which is just the final slide, I believe. Well, the last slide is just my contact details, to be fair to him, so.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Apologies for those minor technical difficulties, but the message came across loud and clear. Thank you, Dave. And we have one question from Angela Forbes. Angela's asking, are all charges included in the £3.50 monthly fee, or is it just usage only?
It's all charges. That's a full lot. I mean, obviously, there's a fair usage charge, a fair usage policy, which every single mobile that offers inclusive minutes and inclusive texts introduces. But yeah, it's subject to a fair policy charge, but all costs are included.
And we have one more question just come up. Just let me get to that. Does the monthly cost occur only when the device is in use or always? And does Apello offer recycling collection at the end of the life of the equipment?
I've not been asked the last question about the recycling. And as with all electronic components, there's the recycling element has to be applicable to it, because that's about how you recycle electronic parts, including batteries and other electronic equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't been asked that, so unfortunately I won't be able to answer that, but I can find out and certainly let you know, Terence, so we can publish that information. And what was the first question, sorry?
So does the monthly cost occur only when the device is in use, or is it always?
So what we have on the unit is the initial units will have a PSTN connection on them. We're not sure how long we will keep that PST connection on the unit, because as we move to digital, it'll go down the route of an Ethernet connection into a router. And obviously having a PSTN will increase the cost. So the first 5,000 will certainly have the PSTN connection on it. And what that does is it means that if the unit's connected into the PSTN connection, then the unit will not fire the SIM up until that connection disappears and an alarm call or a call is generated on the unit. So whether that's alarm button, smoke detection button, or fall detection, whatever sort of peripherals are connected to it. And what that means is that the SIM won't fire up initially if it's plugged into a PSTN connector. But as soon as it plugs into the Ethernet connection, then the SIM is active.
That's all the questions. I hope that's answered your questions.
Lovely. Thanks very much. And I'm so sorry about that little technical glitch we had in the middle.
Not a problem. Thank you very much,
Thank
Dave.
you. Cheers.
And now I'd like to move on to our next presentation. And our next presentation is from KeySafe from Susie Villion. And I can see Susie is on screen now. Could you share your presentation, please, Susie?
Thank you, Terence. Good. Is that all sharing okay?
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, really feel for you, Dave, but hopefully I won't have the issues you've had because I've got no video, so fingers crossed there. But yeah, thanks for me to take part this morning. I'm going to take you on a little journey. I've got an imagined individual. We're going to start with them in their own home, see them going to hospital and then being discharged to go home again. So If the slide moves on, yep, there we go. So I'm sure that everyone on the webinar is aware of the world of tech. That's why we're here, because we're part of this world of tech and all the different parts of equipment that make up that tech umbrella. In fact, as we've seen 2 presentations already of suppliers that do provide tech. And many of you will have seen this picture on the slide, which shows a house with all the tech and where it sits around the home. Now, with our imagined end user this morning, I'm going to focus on falls. Age UK did a survey and they found that 36% of older people put falling as their top concern. That's about 4.3 million people. And falls are the major cause of death from injury in the over 65s. And it costs the NHS about £2 billion a year and about 4 million bed days. The over 65 population is only getting larger. At the time of the last census, 1 in 6 people were over 65. And obviously that's continuing to grow. Now, falls are linked to a range of different risk factors. It could be medical conditions like dementia, poor eyesight, or even the effects of prescribed medication. And there are other causes as well. But no matter what the reason for the fall is, it's vital the person gets help as soon as possible, because prompt medical assistance is the difference between life and death. Now, in the golden hour, which is the first hour after a medical incident when treatment is said to be most likely to save the life of the individual. And many telecare services have got their own responder services. But for my imaginary person this morning, I'm going to be looking at stats around calls to the ambulance service. So according to NHS England, back in March 2021, so almost a year ago now, the ambulance service received about 999 calls per day in that month. Yes, 999. I did not make that up, I swear. That's actually a genuine stat with NHS England. So that equates to about 31,000 calls for the month. And with each call costing the NHS about £7, that's about £217,000 just to answer those calls coming into the ambulance service. Now, from those 31,000 calls, 13,000, or about 42%, result in incidents where the patient is transported to the emergency department. Now, that costs about £252, so we're looking there at £3.2 million. So altogether, just those phone calls and transfer to the emergency department is just under £3.5 million for 1 month in March 2021. So the ambulance arrive on site and we have all this wonderful tech in the picture, but what's missing? How do the blue lights gain access? So if we visualize our imaginary person lying on the floor, they can't get to the door to open up for the ambulance personnel to get in. So that may result in something like this picture with the door being forced. And of course, no one is going to begrudge the blue lights for forcing the door to save a life. The life is far more important than any amount of money. But what a lot of people don't recognise is the obligation once that breach has been made. So the obligation from the blue lights is to leave the property secure. That could mean boarding up that door, or it could just mean that a family member is at home. So it's deemed that a family member is keeping the property secure. The actual repairing of the damage or potentially replacing the door is down to the homeowner to sort with their insurance company. There's some pricing in there I got from a locksmith website this year, updated at the beginning of this year, with prices of repairing locks, changing doors, etc., etc. They are quite shocking. I've been looking at a composite door for myself recently, and I can't believe the price of them. But not just the money. It's also stressful for the person. They've fallen over, so they're stressed they've fallen over. They then witness their door being forced in. Then they get taken off in the ambulance to go to hospital, and they're worrying about the safety of their home and their possessions within the home. Now, that could have been avoided if there had been a key safe on site and the code for the key safe was stored at the ARC. That way the ambulance would have had notification about the key safe being there, the code, how to get in, and that whole false entry could have been avoided. Now, of course, we're not the only key safe suppliers around, but we like to think that we've been doing this a long time now, and we know quite a bit about the market and the products. So we say to people, like, to ensure peace of mind, please make sure that you look for a key safe that's police recognised. The Secure by Design scheme showcases products that are classified as police preferred. And the best key safes have an independent attack test standard. The LPS 1175 standard, which is cited here, is secure as a domestic front door. It's had the same sort of attack testing as your domestic front door goes through. And obviously I'm here to plug myself, so I'm going to turn around and say that the C500 and P500 key safes, which are here on this slide, have got the highest attack test standards of any mechanical key safe in the UK, with their A5 attack rating. But it's not just about the security. The key safe also needs to be reliable. The last thing you need is the responder arrives, they get told there's a key safe, there's a code, and the key safe doesn't work. But moving on with my imaginary inducer, they get taken into hospital, they get treated for their fall, and they become part of the statistics. They're among the 80% of patients aged over 65 that spend more than 2 weeks in hospital. But basically they want to go back home again. They don't want to be in hospital. The graph here comes from NHS England, and it shows a number of bed days associated with delayed transfers of care that are increasing and the reasons for those delays. The areas that relate to organising placement in a care home or getting a home-based care package in place have shown the most increases over that time frame. And in the graph, there are the two middle parts of the bars, the light blue and the white. NHS England state that nearly a third of hospital beds, which is about 30,000 beds, could be freed up by improving discharge rates and processes. It's also important to prevent readmission. If you're going to be sending your patient home, you need to make sure their home is safe and that it's not cold. Moving away from my imaginary person, a couple of real life examples using key safes in hospital discharge. The first one comes from Oxford Home Improvement Agency, the one on the left there. When the COVID pandemic first hit, it seems like a long time ago now, this HIA doubled their grants to get people out of hospital quickly. They recognised a key safe was a vital piece of equipment for granting access to carers delivering care. And they made the decision that a discharge could not take place without a key safe being fitted. At that time, the key safe with fitting cost them £74, but they estimated it saved the NHS 7 bed days, which they equated to about £2,500. The other example on the right-hand side in the box there, this comes from Warwickshire Age UK, and we've got two people, both over 70 years of age, living in a first floor flat. Now, so I don't get tongue-tied, I'm just going to call them Jim and Liz. So Jim is Liz's full-time carer, helps her live with late-stage Alzheimer's. They have got professional care workers that go in 3 times a day that help with Liz's personal care. And Jim's still quite active, climbing the loft ladder, and he fell and broke his leg in 3 places. Didn't do things by halves, did he? So he's in hospital for almost 6 weeks, but while he was in hospital, no one was there to care for Liz. So she was placed into a care home. So when it came time for Jim to be released from hospital, he had his assessments, he had the equipment organised to get him home, which included a key safe because he couldn't get to the front door. And he was also confined to a wheelchair for 3 months. After a week, he was visited at home and reassessed, and they determined that because of the key safe, they could also get Liz to return home from the care home because the carers could let themselves in. Now, of course, there were extra care costs when Jim was in the wheelchair, but they worked out that over an 11-week period, this arrangement saved £2,400 when compared to the cost of Liz being in the care home. But more important than that, both Jim and Liz were happier to be in their own home. Now, we know that it's really, really hard to get a key safe installed as quickly as may be needed. Often we hear stories of a patient ready to be discharged on Friday afternoon, and the key safe just can't be fitted until the Monday morning or even later. Some hospital discharge teams are tackling this by creating their own solution. They're creating essential packs, which can allow our patients to go home with some care in those interim days. A range of different names. Some call them grab bags, others call them ready bags, or other names as well. And the content of the bag varies as well. But from an access point of view, it could include a portable key safe. And shameless plug again, we have two types of portable key safe. The one shown here in the picture can attach to either a grab rail or a gate, much like a padlock does. And we call it a portable very imaginatively. The other one we call a J5, and that hooks over the top of a door. So when the door closes, the door actually keeps the key safe in place. There is no tools required to fit these key safes. They are a plug and play solution. And they allow our imaginary person to get home quickly and safely, and their care team using those temporary solutions to gain access and care for our person. The idea is that it's in place just in the interim period until a more permanent solution can be fitted, like the cases I showed you earlier. And then the temporary solution can be taken back to the discharge team, and they will then reuse the product again to send somebody else home. So that's the end of my little imaginary journey and veering off as well. Please get in touch with me, particularly if you want to talk about any ideas of how we can work together. But thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Susie. There are no questions from the delegates at the moment. I have a question for you. I have elderly neighbours who have one of your products installed, and they also have a care line. Just I was wondering if you have any the problem with them is that they have the key safe, but any recommendations that they still double lock the door from inside? Do you give any advice on either removing that ability or a way around that to stop the key safe becoming not useful tool to use to gain access to the house?
Yeah, and I think that's partly working in conjunction with other service providers, because we had a phase quite a few years ago where door chains were being used. Yes. And obviously it's all well and good being able to use the key to open the door. The door chain's in place, you're stuck then, aren't you? And I know there is a type of door chain that has got a lock in the middle of it, so you can store that in the key safe as well and be able to open the door chain. But I think as far as double locking goes, that would be something I'd need to kind of work with partners on to get advice out to people.
We have another question. Is the C500 the only police graded? If so, is KeySafe working on any new models that would be digital?
Okay. Yeah, if you go onto the Secure by Design website and search for key safes, there are other key safes that are police preferred. And we like to shout that we were the first one. We've got the high standard, but obviously I'm going to do that in sales. But yes, there are other solutions. We have got a new key safe coming out later on this year. My colleague Nimesh will be at your event on the 15th, and he will have the new product there for people to have a sneak peek at, so they can give us some feedback what they think about it. It is mechanical again, because when we did surveys with our customers, they like the reliability of mechanical. We have several customers that went to electronic solutions that ultimately let them down. So at the moment we're staying with mechanical, but we are looking into electronic for the future.
Thank you very much, Susie. That's all the questions for now. Susie's presentation will be on the website, so if you think of any further questions, please send them in at a later date. So thank you very much, Sue. Thank you. So now I'd like to move on to our next presentation, and this one will be from Vonage, and Dee Barasha will be presenting ID. I can see your presentation up and in presentation mode. I'd like to hand over to Dee now to start his presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, Terence. Hi, everyone. I'm Dee Parashar from Vonage. Usually a good starting point for me is how to get our company name right. I've heard all sorts of names. My favorite one is Vonage. I kind of prefer that because it has a French accent to it and probably something that we all tend to associate with. But basically, we are an American company, which is why Vonage is how you would address us. The company itself is over 20 years old and grown through lots of acquisitions. I am a part of New Voice Media, which was a British company acquired by Vonage back in 2016. And Vonage itself is in the process of being acquired by a much more familiar name, Ericsson, which, if everything goes well, should happen in the next couple of months. Vonage has loads of customers, revenues of over $1 billion, etc. So a very well-established company. To name a few customers, Financial Conduct Authority, PensionBee, Alliance Healthcare. There are loads of clients across various verticals, right from healthcare to regulatory authorities to public sector services, to all companies in the private sector as well. So there's a wide variety of organizations that we tend to work with. We are ISO 27001 certified, level 1 PCI DSS certified, HIPAA certified, etc. So we have all the levels of certifications that you would expect from a company like us. But who our Vonage is done? What do we do? The services that we provide can be categorized into 3 different parts. The first one, which is customer experience focused, is more to do with contact center services and communications API. The contact center services can be either for an inbound call center or an outbound call center, which has maybe just voice only, or if you have any kind of integration requirements into omni-channel like web chat, SMS, WhatsApp, etc., then we can do that as well. Or if you're looking to a deeper integration into a CRM like Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics or ServiceNow, then our contact center solution is fully flexible and able to deeply embed within a CRM so that anyone who's taking a phone call, for example, they can get a screen pop and directly work from within the CRM system rather than switching back and forth between different applications. Our communications API is more of a point-based solution, where if you're looking to get a video integration done or a two-way SMS done, then we can use our API solution. And one of the best examples that I can think of is the Babylon app that is used by Bupa for consultations with GPs, uses the Vonage video API, and customers are able to have a video appointment with the GP through that Babylon app. There are other features like two-way SMS, etc., to send reminder notifications for appointments, etc., so that citizens don't miss out on a potential GP appointment or any such notifications that are required to remind people. There's a lot of wastage around missed appointments, etc., so those can be addressed. The third section is around employee productivity, which is within companies. So that is more of a unified communication solution. Everyone these days uses the likes of Teams, Google Hangout, Zoom, etc. The Vonage Unified Communication Solution is probably similar in many aspects to any one of these solutions. With the likes of a video calling solution, you can have video meetings, you can send messages to each other, start an instant meeting, etc., etc. But where it differs is that it's also underpinned by the voice aspect, which is not available in Teams or Google Hangouts or Zoom for that matter, where yes, you can speak with each other, but when you wish to make an outbound phone call, then you move to expensive calling packages. So we can work, we provide the calling packages as well as a part of our solution. And if necessary, it can be embedded within a Teams solution. So you can use Teams for collaboration, but when you wish to make a phone call, an outbound call, then you're using Vonage from within Teams. All of our solutions are very highly rated. As you can see there, for the unified communication solution has on Trustpilot has an excellent rating at over 4.5. Likewise, our contact center solution is highly rated on the Salesforce App Exchange or Gartner Peer Insights review. And all these are publicly available information where we have no say whatsoever on the reviews that are left by our clients. So you're free to check out those reviews to see what other customers have to say before making a decision. One thing worth mentioning is that both our contact center solution as well as the unified communication solution is there on the Gartner Magic Quadrant. So it's a highly recognized solution even by independent analysts. I've pretty much covered this slide actually, which talks about our integration into Microsoft Teams. So if you're looking to have the PBX element added to Microsoft Teams, then that's covered as well. One of the things, like we tend to get a number of questions around the announcement for ISDN or PSTN switch off in 2025. So we are having loads of conversations around that, around how we can help our customers move to digital platforms. How can you have pilot done right now so that you're preparing in advance for the ISDN switch off? So if you're interested in these sort of conversations as well, we welcome those conversations. I have a couple of case studies about RSPCA and National Citizen Service. I don't want to talk around this right now. I'll leave these as in a PDF that you can download after the presentation is over, only because time is limited and I don't have enough ability to go through these right now. I was looking to discuss a case study, if I could, for a couple of minutes, which was how we helped London Borough of Hackney last year when they suddenly had a hacking which cost them 11 million. This was all over the news. I'm sure you've all read about it. And they were looking to move very swiftly during the pandemic into a whole new contact center solution, as well as the back office solution for their telephone system. So they had 250 contact center agents and over 3,500 back office staff, all of who needed migration as quickly as possible. To address this, they had a new interim CEO. They had a lot of restructuring internally, and there was a lot of pressure on costs as well. I mean, budgets are being tightened everywhere. So I guess this is a universal issue where there's no new investment available. So the need was really to replace all this existing solution as quickly as possible with something which is absolutely secure, and they don't have to address all the security challenges that they already had. So we were able to quickly deploy remotely. Our solutions are fully browser-based, very easy to deploy. And we were able to prove that without entering the Hackney offices, remotely we were able to deploy the contact center solution as well as the back office solution within 3 months across such large numbers. So I think it's a very good case study, and we are in the process of helping Hackney Council now to bring in other departments like their education department, like housing, etc., and start working with them proactively to reach out to citizens for elderly care. How can they proactively make calls, send SMSs? When they making calls, we are able to get their information across straight away to whoever is handling that phone call. So these are the ways in which we are now looking to improve the service after first doing a like-for-like replacement that they were using in the first place. So it was it's quite an interesting project, and if you have any questions around it, please feel free to ask. There are other value additional services that we are providing now to not just Hackney, but other clients as well, like the Financial Conduct Authority, etc., with call recording. And they're asking us to store call recording for 14 years, for example, or provide a level 1 PCI compliant payment solution where you can take an agent assistant payment or do an automated payment. So all these sort of value additional services are available as well. Or if you're looking for like a proactive voice bot or chat bot solution, then we have investments in AI technology as and when required. So basically, we are a pure cloud solution provider. We have a very resilient solution with guaranteeing 99.999% uptime. We have all the levels of security and compliance. We provide the benefit of both contact center as well as back office communications as a single vendor. And we're very highly rated independently by Gartner Peer Insights, Trustpilot, Salesforce App Exchange, etc. So hopefully that gives you a good high-level overview of who we are. I will also be there in the next event and look forward to meeting you all. Feel free to send any questions across, or hopefully I'll get a chance to meet you in the next event.
Thank you very much, Dee. Thank you for that introduction to Vonage services and products. We will share these presentations. There's a few slides for you to go through a bit more detail, and these information will be shared later if you'd like to get in contact with him. So now I'd like to move on to our final presentation this event, and the final presentation will be given by Phil Bridges. Actually, it's not a presentation, but I'm going to hand you over to Phil Bridges now to start his part in this session.
Good morning, or good afternoon, sorry, we've just clipped into the afternoon. I'm afraid to say I was going to do another big PowerPoint presentation, and then I just realized that I'm done with them. I think that having been through as many PowerPoint presentations as we've probably all been through over the last 2 years, I thought on the one occasion that I actually get to talk to those people that are on today, I would talk rather than put a load of information on screen. I think most people know who Oyster are, and if you don't, you're going to find out more right now. But I think probably the biggest thing is I've spent a lot of time over the last few sessions, probably doing the panel sessions, which I really thank UKTelehealthcare for doing during what has been a slightly weird couple of years. And what that's done, that's allowed me to interact with a load of different providers and suppliers within the sector, and to hear people talking about various different factors that affect the industry at the moment. And what I've been is, of course, I've been chairing these, which means that I've never really get to say what I think from an Oyster perspective, so with my Oyster head on, rather than my chairing a panel session head. So I just wanted to circle around a few of those bits, talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's come out of that and my thoughts on it, and sort of the Oyster line on it. and then to talk a little bit about what we do. So I realised that, you know, we're nicely ahead of schedule, I think, so we can actually just sort of crack through this. So really, I'd like to start with the whole analog to digital switchover, which I mean is absolutely vitally important that we're all talking about it on a daily basis. But there's a lot of noise that comes out at the moment, and so I have my ear to the ground and hearing all the various people that we work with talking about analog to digital. And I think Steve Smith's sessions for UKTelehealthcare have been absolutely brilliant in terms of the detail that has been put around the technical. But this is when my brain drifts into my agenda. So the oyster agenda is, I get the feedback from lots of people about moving to the digital button and box. It isn't simple. It isn't as easy as the old way of doing it. And of course, in the new world, that's not going to be the case. It's not always going to be as simple. We're not always going to be able to do the most simple route. And that feels to me like there's a negativity around that. But also, I think there's a massive opportunity that sits underneath that, is that if we are moving to a digital world, and you know, I'm sure from those from local authorities or purchasing this kind of equipment at the moment, they're seeing the cost increase because this equipment is more expensive. You know, it's substantially more expensive, and it moves it to a different style. But actually, fundamentally, it's probably delivering the same type of alarm in a resilient way, admittedly, but it hasn't actually moved the game on. Moving from analog to digital doesn't move the game on. So for me, that feels like a great moment to come back to my agenda, which is about breaking down the four walls, which is about saying, if you're purchasing, and I say this more to those people who are purchasing rather than the manufacturers that are on this call, if you're purchasing a digital button and box, think mobile telecare. Think about Oyster or whoever, actually, because this is about breaking down the four walls. So I really wanted to dig into that a little bit more in terms of how I see it, because I think my perspective is not right for everyone. And of course, there are no silver bullets. There is no sense of the fact that everyone has to have the same solution. It is person-centered care that we're all trying to deliver. So absolutely, I'm not saying this is the one single route to go. However, what I would say is the adoption rate of mobile telecare, and I've been doing this now for over a decade, been talking about breaking down the four walls, is not as high as I think it should be. I think we should be encouraging this more. And the reason I say that is because with a different mindset, we can catch people at different places in the journey. So I've done some great falls sessions. I think they've been great, talking about falls within the UKTelehealthcare panel sessions. And some of the points that came from that really resonated with me, that activity is a big part of falls prevention. So encouraging activity is a big part of falls prevention. And for many years, I've talked about the button and box, as many of you undoubtedly will have heard me saying, you know, the idea of psychologically saying to someone, here is your pendant, this works at home. If you go out, it doesn't work. Now, for me, that was my aunt. She was told that she didn't go out for several months when she was given her pendant, because she just took that as being, I was no longer safe to go out. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the full story. I think there's, you know, as always, there's more devil in the detail for all of these things. But actually, encouraging people to stay active is a great way of preventing falls. You know, if we are active, if we're going beyond our four walls, if we are engaging our core by moving around, that is vital to actually minimizing the risk of falls. And there is some great technology, and I've really enjoyed the presentations today talking about falls, but they're at the point, you know, in terms of, you know, a fire alarm, that's when the alarm's going off because the building's on fire. we need to be thinking in terms of fire prevention. So this is about how do we prevent those falls, and activity is a big part of that. So as part of that, mobile telecare is potentially that cloak of care that allows people to step beyond that point, to feel safe going into the community, going out for a walk, engaging confidence. And also, with the development of really good platform interactions with our devices, what it does is it also means that those unpaid carers, those people who are delivering £500 million worth of care, that are out there daily delivering and making sure people are safe, actually have some sense of the fact of how this person is doing. So, I'll make no bones about it, between Mario and the team at Oyster, there's been a massive investment over the past few years, developing platforms to allow this data to be used effectively, not to have paralysis by analysis, but to actually say in the most simple terms, do you know what? Dad's active, Dad's going out, Dad is doing well at the moment. And that's a very different story to a button and box. That is a very different story to actually what we do as default. So what I'd say is the challenge from the analog to digital switchover, I think, is to break the paradigm, is to actually say, I wonder what we could do differently, as we know we're not going to be able to do it in the same way. And I suspect that the boys in Nokia many years ago, who were building these fabulous mobile phones with a month's battery life, thought the world was theirs, until this really annoying company turned up with a phone that you had to charge every day, and no one ever bought another Nokia phone. And I said that to someone actually earlier on today, someone internally to Oyster, was talking to them about how great the old Nokia phones were. And they said, yeah, do you know, they were great. I'd love to have one. Yeah, they still sell them. Just no one buys them, because we've moved on and we've realized that there's benefits beyond just having the thing do the thing. So that's when I start, when I'm talking to people who are buying a £200 button and box with a SIM card inside it. And I say, so talk me through the things that you need to understand with that device. Because from an Oyster perspective, when we've got our equipment that is being person-centered, and we've got a number of questions that we need to ask when we're putting this device out. So do they always go to the same place? Is there somewhere that they always go on a daily basis? Yeah, there is. They go to the paper shop. Great. So do you want us to set that up as a route, just so we can know if they deviate from that? You could be notified if they deviate from it. Oh yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah, that would be great. Well, would you like to know if they go out in the middle of the night? Oh yeah, no, definitely. We'd definitely like to know that. Oh, and would you like to know if they haven't come home by a certain time? Oh yeah, no, that would be really helpful. Actually, would you like us to send them a message on a daily basis just to say, are you okay? And they can respond, because that might be a really great interaction for them that allows you as a carer to stay calmer, or allows you to put another data point within those data sets that are looking at the activities of daily living. Yeah, that can be done. So mobile telecare isn't just about the frustrations that people have had, and trust me, I understand the frustrations that people have had with mobile telecare over the years, because it is about the fact that, oh yeah, no, it's charging. Charging is a nightmare. How do you charge up a device? What I'd say is Apple didn't worry about that. They just saw the benefit of having a device do what it needed to do. And the negative of that is, you know, you're going to have to charge it on a daily basis. But the benefit outweighed, and we don't buy Nokia. We do buy, and I bet you there's someone on here who still has a Nokia phone, and I apologize that if that is the case, because we're all unique. We should be allowed to have whatever we like. So for me, I'm really aware that I could carry on talking for 4 hours on this. mobile telecare is the future. And you know, at Oyster, we absolutely understand all of the pieces that go together to make that work. And that means that we don't have, you know, one device which has got simple charging. It means that we don't have, you know, we have a watch. It means that we have a tiny little tracker that acts as a keychain that my dad loves, by the way. That we have devices with 2-week battery lives. That we have devices that are there also to protect the people going out. That we also have completely standalone fire sensors, smoke sensors that are there to augment our reality in terms of what we do. And all of that is connected into a platform that allows easy access for those providing the care, those looking at it from an adult social care perspective and trying to look at how to use the data, but also actually to give that really rounded view that we can be person-centered, that we can change the agenda. And I really hope that as we move forward towards 2025, that there's a little bit of a sea change when we realise that if we could support adult social care more as a nation, we could reduce the impact on the NHS. If we take Section 2 of the Care Act and actually start to really deliver that by doing some of these big holistic, you know, views of keeping people active, not having them isolated, having them have better core stability because they're moving around, having them reduce hypertension because they are active. And I know, as I'm saying all of this in really broad brush strokes, potentially I'm missing the little points, but this isn't about the difficult 20%. This is about the bulk 80% of people who could really, really benefit day one staying active and using mobile telecare. So for anyone who's interested, we are absolutely here. We have a fully manned and staffed office in the UK. Lots of people there. Ring our telephone number and someone answers it. It's not a voice thing that says for sales, press button 3. No, speak to whoever answers the phone. It could easily be me or Mario or anyone else in the business. We all answer the phone. And there's plenty of us there, and we're here to absolutely help you on that journey. But please do consider Oyster and mobile telecare as part of your move towards IoT and forward towards better outcomes. That's all I would ask. I'd probably use my time, Terence.
Just sorry we haven't got the hours for you to continue on this session, but lots of food for thought. Come and see Phil at our live event in March. In fact, come and see all our presenters today, Stuart, David, Susie, Dee and Phil, and continue the conversation. So for now, thank you very much, Phil. And I'd like to pass on to Jerry Allmark to for his closing remarks for this session. Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks, Terence. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'd just like to take the next 10-15 minutes to actually follow on from, I didn't know what Phil was going to talk about today. He said he was going to do a presentation, he was just going to chat, but it leads in really well to what I wanted to talk about, which is the analog to digital transformation piece. Now, for those of you who remember 3 years ago, when Openreach first announced that they would be stopping the old analog copper system and going over to digital. At a very early stage, we started to engage with all the CPs and Openreach at our events in Hammersmith and Fulham. And they were very lively events because obviously there was a huge concern around the effects of this, this change on our industry, which has been in the past basically analog. We committed at that time, 3 years ago, that we would not only work with the CPs and with Openreach and with Ofcom, but we'd also, on behalf of our members and the wider techs industry, was to lobby central government into ensuring that we had the support to be able to do this, so we can protect those 1.8 million people who rely on these services during this transition. Now, this little thing called COVID got in the way of our live events and that engagement, and we've had to do a lot of other work in between. But what I'm really pleased to say is that in the last 6 months, that lobbying that we've been doing in the background, the all-party parliamentary groups we've been attending both face-to-face and virtually, have now really raised the profile within the NHS and within government departments about where the tech industry sits in regard to the transformation. And we now see that there are support methods being put in. So we've been engaging with NHSX, soon to be part of or go back to being part of the wider NHS England delivery. So there's a lot of change going on there. But we've been really getting understanding, I think, from NHSX as to the challenges that we've had. So recently, NHS England, together with the Department of Digital Culture and Media Support, ran a workshop which we were invited to attend. And I think there was a real commitment in that workshop that it wasn't a one-off workshop, that this is something that we'll continue to work with them and develop as we go along to support our members, and I said the wider tech industry as well. So very close working with central government through NHS England and the Department for Digital Health. We've tied this together with our first live event really since 2019. So we're very lucky to have been offered a venue in Dorking in Surrey by Mole Valley Life. It's a very large venue, so we can be able to hold a very large event there. But what we did is we wanted to really concentrate not just on a marketplace event, but on an event that will move the agenda forward as we head towards 2025 in terms of delivering true digital health technologies. So we are supported by NHS England at this event. So this is your opportunity to actually meet with those organisations, governmental organisations, with the CPs and with Ofcom and with Openreach to ask those challenging questions, seek the right support. The event will also have all our members who are delivering true digital solutions as well. So there's an opportunity to talk to the suppliers, and we will also look at the opportunities around training and other support methods that will help move your service forward safely. So I would encourage you to have a look at the website. All the details to register are on there. The event is on the 15th of March. As I said, it's at Dorking Halls in Dorking and Surrey. Access is really good. It's very close to the M25. You've got 3 stations in Dorking, and it's very close to Gatwick Airport as well. So it's a good venue. We are hoping that NHS England will be in a position to at least, if not launch, but introduce their guidance for the tech industry at that event. And we are looking to enable or create an environment where all our provider members and related organisations will really have a chance to learn best practice and share best practice at this event. So really encourage you to have a look at the website, to register for the event. Hopefully, we're going to be able to accommodate everyone who wants to come. And we look forward to continuing to inform you about
Bye.